I want you to imagine that this is a class of 5-year-olds just starting school, and they're all keen to learn to read and spell. These ones, I've arranged them on a bell curve, so a normal distribution. These ones have got fabulous language skills, big vocabularies. People have been talking to them, reading them stories. They're cognitively very well equipped to learn good language. Their sounds are all in place. They're really raring to go. They're about to take off, or they might even be able to read a bit before they start school. These ones, not so lucky. This little chap has got a language disorder. I haven't diagnosed that yet. These ones have got funny sounds. They're not talking in such good sentences. They don't have the vocabulary. They haven't had as many stories. So from an environmental and a personal, cognitive horsepower point of view, they're less well equipped to learn language and thus to learn reading and spelling well. And the ones in the middle, the average kids, they're not so much my concern. Being a speech pathologist, I'm worried about this mob. So when we get into school, let's see what happens and the way that they're taught. So children are taught the alphabet, just a few letters of the alphabet here. They're taught f and so the sounds of letters. So to look at a letter and say a sound, and they're taught them at the beginning of words. So initial phonics, what I call it's for apple phonics. So you get your picture dictionaries, and they go through letter by letter, and they'll learn a whole lot of words that start with the letter A. Yeah, A is for apple. And ape, oh, that's not ape, A. Okay, so it's A and A. Aardvark, oh, that's not A. Ah, okay, so there's 3 sounds. Autumn, well, there's or. Oh, aeroplane, it's an X sound, isn't it? Aeroplane. Australia, well, they could say or Australia, or if you sound posh. Sorry, but there's quite a few sounds that go with that letter. So maybe the relationship between sounds and letters is random, is what this little chap is starting to think. And also the words are often very long, and there's no way a beginner can sound out that word. So it really reinforces this focus on the first letter, not the other letters in the word, and just look at the picture and guess. The books that they're given to take home do the same thing. Here's one I made earlier. It's called At the Market, and so it's got some long words. I see bananas, 3-syllable word, but don't worry, just look at the picture, the first letter, and think what would make sense. We're at the market, and guess. I see watermelons, 4-syllable word with an or and anyway, complexity. No kid can in prep sound that out, or few. So what they do is they look at the first letter and guess, and that's encouraged. I see oranges. Well, after a while you can read these books just looking at the picture. You don't have to look at the words at all. And so decoding is not encouraged. And then in these are the golden words. These are the high frequency words children are taught to memorise. Here's ah. This word is ah. So they're learning ah is for apple, but this is ah. And this is at for apple, and this is at for apple. What about this one? This is was. Oh. So again, the whole idea that you memorise and you guess, and you can't really sound out because there's a z and this is a t. How do I know why is that and that's z? It's not really explained. There's no indication that that's a 2-letter spelling. Here's o and here's oo and here's v. So children are not encouraged to sound out, and they can't sound out those words. Out on the bag hooks, we've got Addison, Aiden, Audrey, Austin, Alyssa, and Alia, and Caleb, Charlie, Chloe. And so that's Chaim, yeah, and ch. And here we've got E and E, P and F, G and J. And teachers not being taught about phonemes and graphemes at university, they're taught about letters and words, don't really know how to unpack all this complexity for children. So it's sort of there, but not explained, and children, the clever ones can figure their way through it, and the kids like this little chap cannot. So at the end of grade prep, the first year of school, lots of these kids are reading pretty well. The more well-equipped ones, he can't read at all. We might know a few letters, he might be able to recognise a handful of words, but pretty much can't do it. And these ones are not doing so well either, because it's too complex. It looks like chaos to them, and they cannot crack it. And so they can do the stuff that they've learnt by rote and by memorisation, but they haven't got a system for really pulling it apart and really getting in and being able to attempt new words. So Then the second year of schooling, they get intervention, but the intervention is much the same. Look at the picture and guess, think what word might go in there, and look at the first letter. Don't try to sound it out because the words are too hard to sound out. So you can't. So of course you're going to look at the picture and guess. And by the end of grade 1, this little kid is starting to act up. He's really angry. He hates school. He's starting to get in a school refusal frame of mind, or if he's a girl. Girls who have this problem are less visible because they misbehave less. They just sort of try and shrink and disappear. And that's about when they get referred to me or get referred for extra help. And so I do some assessment. They can't sound out, and they don't know they're not aware of sounds and words, and they don't know spelling patterns. So we're going to have to teach them and do it in a systematic way. So we start with just a few sounds. Let's make sat. We'll change it into sit, and we'll change it into pit. And we'll make sap is the blood from trees, and we'll just muck around with these, just a few really simple one letter, one sound relationships. Then we add a few more. We add to make some different words, and then we start to add more consonants, more spellings, and gradually make longer words and be able to cope with more complexity. And beginning spellings, we learn which spellings go at the beginning before a vowel. We learn some digraphs, ch and sh and f. These are two things. This is a different animal from when the letters are by themselves. We learn ending spellings, doubles. We learn the in hang and long, and k. It's an ending k. We learn past tense ed. And we start on more vowel spellings. Vowels are the nightmare in English. This I is in night, this O in boat, and the oi in boy, and there's another oi in boil here. The A like this. So we make the word take, and then we can change it into tape, and do a lot of manipulating and getting kids to realise these are the building blocks of words. It's not letters, it's sounds and their spellings is the system you use to make sense of the spelling system in English. That's the only way that it can make any sense. And then as we go along, we're reading the books that we're reading reflect the spellings that we've studied. So we're not having a whole lot of guessing because we can actually sound these words out. Here's one for beginners, another little one for beginners. This one's only got 5 sounds in this book, so you get plenty of practice with just them. Get good at those ones, then add a few more. Gets a bit harder, more words on the page, and there's lots and lots of these little decodable books available with very simple spellings to begin with. They're often not available in schools, but try libraries, or my website has lots of information about them. These ones are suitable for older kids or adults, and there's cartoony ones like this. Starting to do longer words with 4 sounds or 5 sounds in the word. Here's some with vowel spellings, E, O, suitable for an older kid or an adult, and the same thing for little kids. These are cute, I think, and some sort of wizards and dragons and explosions ones for those older kids who are quite, they don't want to read baby books. Ones with different vowel spellings. There's another one there. And there's books, there's workbooks that go with a lot of those sets of readers have got workbooks that go with them. The Rescue series has got a lovely workbook here for kids who've learnt quite a bit of code by now. The workbooks that I've made up, we practice writing the first sound in words and just a small number of spellings, and then we practice the last sounds in words. This little chap needs heaps of practice, heaps. So you really got to build it up. And practicing hearing the difference between e and it's very tricky and takes a lot of practice writing the words yourself. So don't just try and do a sound and then build up to spellings and words, and show beginning spellings and ending spellings. So the k, like in deck, versus the k in the start of cab, or the k at the start of kid, and show them the variations. There are so many good ways to teach this, and you can find lots of info on my website about that. Here's some ways to spell O's and A's, and this activity you circle the letters and you write the words, and then you have a quiz at the end. Sound check, a lot of schools have got that. If you've got it in your library, dig it out. There's Irish books that have nice spellings. There's O words, and those ones, what are those? U's, and ones with E at the end. The letter Y is an E in a longer word. I've got a lot of iPad apps that I use. Families, in particular, if they've got an iPad or an iPhone, kids can learn a lot from good iPad apps. There's some awful ones around, but there's also a lot of really good ones. Picture books for beginners should strip the complexity out again. Let's just have one spelling for each sound to begin with. And then over time we can add more complexity. So this is a freebie you can get from my website. Just download it and print it on the school computer. Now, what happens when I start teaching this little chap and his colleagues about literacy in this way is he can then start to crack it. Yeah, and we just go at his pace and gradually add, and he does start to learn to read and spell finally. Whew, but he's 2 years behind. And I wish he wasn't. I wish that we found him on day one and said this kid needs more attention and gave it to him rather than waiting for him to fail. Now, the research shows that if you teach children in this more broken down way, it really helps these kids who we cannot afford to be leaving behind. Sorry, knocking you over. But also, it also helps everybody. Everybody becomes a better speller because they're getting explicit instruction and all this kind of stuff. They don't have to figure it out for themselves, you just teach it to them. And so what happens is the whole bell curve shifts up. He can read, he's not spelling so great, all these ones. These ones, their spelling improves. These ones are really stars. They are far better at spelling than they would have been if you just left them to their own devices to crack it. Because they're 5-year-olds, you know. It's a very complex system. English is made of multiple languages and we shouldn't be expecting children to figure it out for themselves. So, you know, we know the code, we should teach it. We don't expect them to be code breakers. Breaking a code is very hard. So I'm hoping that schools will start to teach more in the way that I teach them when I get them when they're floundering, but do it early, starting prep. Do it for everybody because everybody benefits. These kids can learn to read and they're not left behind. These ones do better. And the other person who benefits is the teacher, who doesn't have such a huge workload because the class has been like, you know, it's like herding butterflies. This kid here can read like a 14-year-old. This kid can't read at all. How are you supposed to teach them in a group? And so just from a teacher workload point of view, it would be fantastic if everybody could be bunched up a bit more and, you know, taught in a sort of rapid-fire way and really get the basics nice and solid in those particularly first 2 years of school. And then if there are kids who are still struggling, this chap will probably struggle no matter what and need extra help no matter what, but at least he won't start from so far behind when he gets referred to me. And there's a chance that he might kind of keep up. He'll still maybe be at the bottom of the pack, but not just drop off the edge of the cliff, because these kind of kids are at risk of ending up in juvenile justice and I mean, all kinds of awful things if they're left really behind, and they're miserable. You know, they deserve better, and so do teachers, and so do these kids. I mean, they're kids.